Hello all, Stacy the Black Feather Intuitive. I am so excited to be introducing you to one of my very good friends, Niki Sue. She is an astrologer and a tarot reader extraordinaire, and she is freaking awesome. And she and I, funny little story, we met only a year ago, I think it was, or maybe a little over a year now. We met through a really cool tarot course that we were taking. If you are interested in taking a really cool tarot course, it's Jeff Hinshaw at Brooklyn Fools Tarot. And we met doing this, this course. And Niki Sue, I'm going to let you kind of take over and talk about our introvertedness, because I think it's such a funny story how we were.
What I remember is the group was essentially really young, and there was about a dozen or a few more people in this group, and I would always have my video off, and the teacher, Jeff, would give us permission to do that. And it felt so good to me to not have my video on, because I'm not necessarily somebody who likes to be out in the video world. And so I would have it off all the time. And I noticed there was about 4 of us that would do that, maybe 3 or 4, Stacy being one of them.
Yeah.
You being one of them. And but occasionally I would pop on and say, like, add something to the group. So I wasn't just like not paying attention. I was there, but I wouldn't be seen, and Stacy would do the same thing. So I was like attracted to your answers you would give. I was like, wow, I really relate to this person. Like, I felt you. So Jeff decides to do this dreaded thing that I can't stand, Zoom rooms. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in a Zoom room with somebody, and I have to the assignment was that we had to read each other's cards. So I was like, okay. And I got Zoom room with Stacy. And I immediately, when I saw your pictures, like, this is going to be awesome. I was so psyched. Immediately, my cape dropped right off, and I was exposed and ready for it and willing to go. And it was just awesome. And ever since, I don't even remember, I feel like it was an immediate friendship.
Yeah.
Immediate mutual respect for the work that we do, and it was just took off from there.
Yeah.
And now we're like everyday friends.
I was just gonna say, we talk every day now, which is awesome. And we've never actually met in person. You live in Jackson, Wyoming, and I of course live in Raleigh, North Carolina. So we've actually technically never met, which I think is so fun. And what a statement for, I want to say, for the age of technology, right? The age of communication, that, the world is very small. And I like that.
It's the perfect vibe too for this Aquarius new moon,
yes.
Which is the new moon spread, which we'll be doing today. And Aquarius is all about technology and also the world. It's about the bigger picture. It's about community and society and communication and all that stuff.
All the good stuff. Well, so folks, I was so excited. Niki Sue and I, for months now, have been doing what we've called the new moon spread, and we learned it in the class that we took. And again, Jeff Hinshaw, Brooklyn Fools Tarot. So grateful to him. What an amazing teacher, and so grateful to him for this spread. And Niki was like, hey, why don't, I was doing the new moon spread that we did, a couple of months back, have you done it? And I'm like, yeah, no, I did it once and whatever. I'm not paying attention. And she's like, well, let's do it together. I'm like, okay. And I didn't know hoot from toot about, new moon, full moon. I mean, I know the basics, but I was like, okay, well, we've been doing it now for months together, where we connect and we do this new moon, and we do it on the moon. So I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago, I woke up in the middle of the night, as is typical for me, because I never sleep and I'm always waking up with crazy dreams. And I had the download that, oh my God, we should do a fun general new moon collab and do this for anyone who is interested in watching and seeing our banter and getting a little bit of information. So it hit me that I need to do the new moon musings. So that's what we're doing today, is new moon musings. And we're getting a little bit of tarot, and we're getting a little bit of astrology around what we're kind of picking up in the energy. And we're getting Fuzzy Tail here, Mr. Merlin, joining us, and you'll hear him chewing the bone in the background. So yeah, super excited to be offering this and just so excited to be collabing. I don't get to do this very often. So it's interesting that you said it's the Aquarius new moon is about community, because you're part of my community. So this is exciting to be able to share and do this with you.
And we're spreading it on technology, which is another piece of Aquarian energy.
Which I love, which is so freaking awesome. So
It's perfect.
Should we do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Dive right in.
So I've chosen a deck today called the Elemental Wisdom Tarot. And I'm not even going to tell you or attempt to tell you the authors, because they are beautiful, I want to say Eastern European names that I'm not even going to try to bastardize out of respect, but you can look it up on Taroteca Studio. So the first card that we always pull is our new moon, and new moon is new moon tomorrow or is it Tuesday?
It's like right at midnight essentially. So for me in the Mountain Standard Time, it's at like, let me see. Let me look. I have the chart right here.
I love it.
It's at 10:48 my time. So it's 12:48. So it's on the East Coast where you are. It'll be on Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's on the it's border. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So for East Coast time, it'll be early in the early morning hours on February 1st.
I love it. I love it. So we're doing it right at the perfect time so that everybody can settle into this new moon energy. And I have a cat here in my mouth, so I'm going to remove that. Delicious. Yum.
Yeah.
And
I love when that happens.
So our new moon card for February is Justice.
Ooh.
And Justice is great. So it is what it is. This is also a lot of communication. I see this card as detachment. And kind of what I'm tapping into here right off the bat is I feel like in our new moon energy, all of us collectively need to really be in a little bit of a space of surrender, just kind of saying, okay, it is what it is. There's not a whole lot I can do about what has already transpired. What I need to focus on is what I'm going to do moving forward. And when we talk about detachment, and, I always like to talk about this card in terms of, the law and legal matters and what that sort of entails. And oftentimes it's thinking about the law as dispassionate or unemotional. It's all, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And it helps to be a bit detached. So anything that you're getting here around things that we need to consider when we're looking at justice?
Funny, I pulled Justice today, this morning, so that's telling. So Justice is the Libra card, and Libra energy is about balance, and it's about managing Libra's balance, but also Libra's love to look at both sides. So there can be a lot of wishy-washiness in Libra because of that. And the card is inviting us into really stepping into the truth in order, because we can't have that sense of justice or know which side or where weighing it out is going to make most sense unless we see the truth. Yeah. So what's happening in the chart is Libra energy is the rising sign. And so this is kind of like a very obvious energy right now in the world. I'm thinking in politics, there's a lot of themes on justice right now, huge in so many different realms that I don't even need to mention, and whether it's war, like all sorts of people being indicted for sex abuse and things like that. Just like there's a lot of things coming out with justice. And this energy is squaring the Capricorn planets, which have been so dominant the past couple of years, but especially recently. We've had some very strong energy in Capricorn. The sun was in Capricorn. It's now in Aquarius, but Venus retrograded in Capricorn. This is about relationship. Venus rules over Libra. So the relationship of weighing out one side and another, your personal relationships that you're having. Yeah. This stuff has really come up to the surface. any themes on love, any themes on even money is Venus related. Uh, all this stuff is coming to the surface, and we have been really probably reflecting in a retrograde. We reflect on the themes that are involved in the energies. And I want to say in Capricorn, this is about our structures. This is about our work. This is about how we've been living, where we're focused on.
Yeah.
So all of these themes have come up so strongly. So having that kind of squaring and that being the first card, I think it's really a time where we really need to look at all those details about how we're living our lives and what our relationships look like and what our relationships are with our work and our money, and where we need to create balance with the Libra justice energy, but really seeing it in its whole truth instead of, kind of being like, well, wishy-washy. We want to like get rid of that and kind of really come to the place where we can actually move forward based on our truth.
Yeah, it's getting to the core of it. And it's funny, you're talking about that Venus piece, and I'm recognizing, I've been noticing for months now that in client situations and even in my own life, when we're talking about love relationships in particular, it's no holds barred. If there's anything that is buried, that is unhealthy or not integrated fully, it's coming up to the surface, because it's like, we need to deal with this. We need to deal with it now, or it's going to deal with us. And so it's interesting that this is coming up right now. And February, often, at least in the US here, and I should say the northern continents, we think of February very much as the month of love because of, Valentine's Day. And I choose to call it Galentine's Day, the day of love, because I don't get all into all of the necessarily the traditional holidays and things. But what I find really interesting is we are moving in, especially in this, 2022 year, it's kind of a 6 year, the Lover's card. We are dealing with romantic partnership. You can't be in a relationship or a partnership anymore if it, at the core of it, is very unhealthy. And so there is a lot of, I want to say there's a lot of separation going on right now. There are a lot of breakups. There are a lot of reevaluating why we're together in the first place. And I've seen it. And I mean, I went through it this year myself. So I find it fascinating, and when we pull the Justice card, when I talk about detachment, I feel that there is a certain level of needing to understand that we need to be a little more detached. I always talk about love as frequency, not as feeling. This new energy, we're moving into this concept of love is a frequency. You hit that frequency, you dial up your vibe, or you tweak your vibe to hit anything, because it's all love. If you want to,
I love that you say that on frequency. That just means so much. By the way, the other thing is Mercury has been retrograde, and so it's been retrograding in Capricorn as well. So when you talk about thinking about these things and really coming up with like a plan, maybe for separating or whatever people are doing in their relationships, it's really that part of the retrograde is retrograding planets is very potent too. It's a lot of thought that goes into that. But then when it's Mercury will be in Aquarius. Let me look at my little chart here where we are. Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. So it's going to go back to Aquarius. And then that's about new things. And it's the glyph for Aquarius is 2 waves, but they're not like waves like water. They're not water. They're like sound waves. So they're like frequency waves. They're like the waves that make the connections for the internet. Like it's like this deeper frequency. So when you talk about frequency, it's so interesting. And when Mercury in a few days will go direct as well. And Venus went direct yesterday. And all this energy is moving towards Aquarius and into Aquarius. And Aquarius is about a whole new perspective. Aquarius is about really seeing from the big picture what the new perspective is for society. It's the sign of the humanitarian. It's the sign of the genius. It's very much break free, liberating energy, and which kind of brings us back to having this Venus in Capricorn, which was like relationships and
Yeah.
the foundation and structure. And then now we're moving in this Aquarius way with this new moon is in Sun and Moon in Aquarius, which is kind of like, how are we going to break free?
Yeah,
What's the
don't put
new
baby in a,
plan
nobody puts
to
baby in
break
a
free?
corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by March, Venus and Mars will come together at 0 degrees Aquarius. It's a poignant day. I believe it's March 6th. And it's going to be really like, that's when, like, you know, the archetype of the male and female, which I hate to use the gender archetypes, but just think of just the energies of that.
Divine masculine.
Not what genitals you have.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, yeah, it's like that's going to come together in Aquarius at 0 degrees, which is kind of like, what are we going to start? That's like so new and liberating us from anything that has been confining us previously. So this energy is really strong. And from February 3rd to April 29th, all the planets are going to be direct. And this doesn't happen that often, that everything is direct at once for a length of time. So we're stepping into a time where things are going to start moving ahead. Where in this retrograde season, we've been really reflecting, and Venus has been retrograde since like the end of November, I think. And it's like till yesterday. So she has been really like making us, forcing us into this place where we've had to really look deep within and ask the bigger questions, the harder questions. And moving forward is a different kind of energy. It's like, okay, I'm ready to, now that I've asked those questions, I'm ready to move forward and make those changes, whatever they are. It could literally be in Venus, it's about beauty. It could be like a hairdo or something doing with money and all that stuff. Venus is money. So it's a really cool time to step forward into something new and exciting.
And quite honestly, after 2020 and 2021, we could use a little bit of forward momentum and some support from the universe and the energies to be able to lift us up in that way. So I'm
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Oh God, yeah. So our second position card after the new moon, and you know, for anyone who's not familiar with sort of the new moon cycle, you want to think about new moon as being sort of 3 days, right? I want to say 3, maybe 3.5 days ish that we are in that energy. So you'll be in the energy of justice from the 1st to the 3rd, or maybe even the 4th. And then it shifts into the Waxing Gibbous 1. And our card for this month is the Chariot. And I love the Chariot. And actually, this was a card that I pulled for Niki and I today when we were talking about what we need to know about our reading today and our collab today. And so that's kind of funny that this came up. So moving into this, the Chariot is very much it's a vehicle that gets you from A to B. And the best way to sort of describe it is you're not meant to stay in the Chariot for long. So it's not a super cushy ride. Nobody wants to stay in a taxi for days and days on end. The taxi is there to get you from A to B, and it saves you from having to walk through the snow. So we really are I want to say, in a space of moving. And it's interesting, Niki, that you were talking about that, how we're opening up into more of a movement space, movement forward and momentum to be able to enact the things that we've been reflective about and maybe some of the plans. So the Chariot is coming through, I feel, to let everybody know that, hey, anything that you sort of have reflected on and you're ready to sort of make some change and to move forward, now is the time, and you're going to be supported in doing so. The Chariot also has to do with a lot of, I want to say it's willpower, but what's coming to my mind right now is free will. And really understanding that we all need to be responsible for our own choices. You can choose to get onto the Chariot, or you can choose to walk in the snow. Either way, you're going to go in this particular direction. So I always like to talk about this as well. We are in a state of change right now, and the change, sometimes we have changes that we can see coming and we can kind of put a stop to it, or we can slow it down. This is not one of those changes. This is not one of those times. The change is happening. You can't stop it from happening. So the Chariot is giving you the opportunity to say, okay, it's happening. We're moving forward. Let me get you there a little bit faster. Let me get you there with a little bit more comfort and a little bit more ease. So I feel like we are in those, those next 3 days, sort of the third, fourth, fifth, possibly into the sixth. I feel like those days are really going to be reflective of the choices that we have made, the commitments that we have recently made to be able to move forward. And I hear commitment to self. I hear commitment to self. So what's going on in the transits there?
Well, I love that you said that, because the polar energy of Capricorn, which is commitments. Capricorn is like, what are we committed to? What are we focused on? It's a very it's ruled by Saturn. So Capricorn is very much, and that's like the head, the ram. It's like, let's what are we really striving for?
Yeah.
But commitment to self, the polar energy of Capricorn is Cancer. Every sign has a polar energy. It's exactly where it's the opposite point in the sky. So it's like, and if you think about the time of the wheel of wintertime Capricorn, summertime Cancer, and Cancer is about the self. It's coming home to the self. Cancer is about our internal worlds. It's ruled by the moon. So I love just the commitment to self is perfectly describes that opposition. And when I look at the chart, what we have in Cancer on this exact moment of the full moon, of the new moon, excuse me, is Black Moon Lilith is exactly opposite from Venus in Capricorn. Black Moon Lilith in Cancer. Lilith was the first wife of Adam, and she apparently, they say, they, whoever they are,
Yeah,
that
whoever
she had,
the proverbial
I'm always
they.
wondering who they are, got kicked out of the garden because she wouldn't submit to Adam.
I can relate.
Basically, she was, I'm getting on top, and he was like, no, you're not, I'm on top. And she's like, well, I'm out of here if I'm not on top, because I want to get on top. So apparently he made Eve out of his arm bone. And I heard Eve was quite a rebel too. So that's cool. But she wouldn't submit to the patriarchy. So she represents our shame, where we're anything that's deviant or deemed deviant in society is Black Moon Lilith. Jeff calls it the queer witch in the chart. So she's just any part of us that's been shamed. Often sexual energy is that's been repressed or scorned at, or comes under this category. So she's being highlighted here. So in any ways we're being asked with this recent Venus retrograde to reflect on that, and like who we need to become, and break free of the confines in a way of, with that retrograde, of what Capricorn brings. Because Capricorn brings structure. So you would think boundaries, which are good for when you're trying to accomplish something and you're committed, but also we need to expand that in order to grow.
I love that. And when you were talking, sort of, not to make it sort of political or rah, but when you were talking about sort of the patriarchy and the shame, when we're looking at the Chariot, it also has that energy of the blending of opposites, or the melding of opposites, like taking two disparate energies, feelings, emotions, and making it work through sheer force of will, making it work for you. It's kind of like not taking no for an answer. And I think that's really interesting, given what you're talking about. Yes, it's commitment to self, but then it's also about what outside forces are affecting my ability to commit fully to myself. And maybe I need to look at that and make a decision as to what needs to stay and what needs to go.
And it's interesting too, because and I don't think I even said this, but the Chariot card is the Cancer card. So it is that Cancerian energy, and which is why I brought that up, but also that you said commitment to self. And I think of that, I always think of like the egg and breaking out of the egg. And it's really sometimes, especially with Cancer energy, it's very easy to stay holed up. Cancers love to be at home and just in their own little environment, which is why cars are related to Cancers, our homes, and just being in that place. But actually, sometimes we have to break free from the comfort zone in order to move forward and have our soul evolve. And that's like the cracking of the eggshell, where we break free into a new place. So it's like the actual container, being the vehicle, really takes us to a certain place, but then the idea is we step out of the vehicle and then we enter a new one. So
Right.
it's really looking deep into what that looks like and actually making the choice. It's quite similar to judgment in a way, the
Mm,
judgment card.
interesting. Wow. I love that. By the way, folks, I meant to mention this before, but I am not an astrologer. I am a novice at astrology, and Nikki Sue's knowledge around astrology always blows my mind. So I always find it so fascinating when she and I sit down to do our new moons, because I always get the, the intuitive stuff, and I tap into all of that, and I'm sharing what I get. And she goes, "Oh my God, and this is what's happening in the chart and in the stars and the planets." And I'm like, it's always amazing to me how the planets really line up with what we have going on in our world. So I love that we're combining this. Just wanted to say that.
As above, so below.
Yes, exactly. All right. So this is our first quarter moon. And our first quarter moon, we've got the devil, which I believe is the Capricorn card, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken. So
Wow.
yeah, this is cool. So the devil, a lot of times people get scared of the devil, and the depictions are a little bit ridiculous sometimes, I think. But basically, think there's two ways to look at this card. You can look at it and say, okay, I'm being rebellious. I'm going against the grain. I'm not interested in conforming in any way, shape, or form. And I might be a rebel with a cause, but I might also be a rebel without a cause. I might be a rebel just to be a rebel. The other aspect of this card is really about shadow work, diving into those parts of ourselves. And you mentioned Black Moon Lilith. It's diving into those parts of ourselves that we might not be proud of, that we don't necessarily want to see, or things that we recognize. I'm stuck in a pattern. I'm stuck in a cycle. I don't want to be stuck anymore. I want to be able to move forward. I got to dive in deep into my soul space or into my heart space to figure out what is holding me back. What is it that's stopping me? So really getting that for the first quarter moon, which I believe is like the 7th to the 9th ish of February, you're going to want to be paying attention to triggers that are popping up, things that you struggle to say no to, addictions, predilections to things. I would say this is not necessarily, and we'll see what the charts say, but this is not necessarily a time for you to, I want to say, go on a diet, or like an extreme diet, or try to stop cold turkey on anything that's going on in your life without support. Make sure you have a lot of support, because what this is doing for us, I feel the 7th to the 9th, is it's calling to light what does need to be addressed in order for you to move forward in a healthy way. But it's not necessarily saying action towards that. It's saying it's going to come to light. And then from there, what are you going to sort of tap into? So what are you getting on this one? Woo!
Well, that card is always so interesting, and it really brings us to it begs the question of, like, what is the root of this?
Yeah.
What is the source? And it makes us have to, it's like if the Chariot is like, okay, it's time to get rid of this shell, but we have, in order to step into that something new, we have to address the root of our issues, or our I don't want to bring it like all to like problems, but it is true. It can be anything that's like escapism, intoxicants, sexual energy is often comes up in this card too. There's often two people depicted that are naked, or like, and what in the transits, Mars is right now in Capricorn, went into Capricorn this week, and I really felt it because Mars is a very like intense, passionate, it can be angry sometimes, it can incite some tension. It's the activist. It's not like it's the warrior. It's the god of action, really, and you think of action. So that's coming together with Venus, that's now moving forward in Capricorn. So this energy of this, they're coming together in Capricorn. I mentioned next month they're going to come together in Aquarius, which will be a different vibe. But it's kind of bringing together, like, maybe like a synthesis here of these two opposites. And it's like Capricorn is about our structures. It's about how we've been living. It's about what have been our walls. And it's kind of inviting us to break down our walls and see the other side with that Venus, Mars. I mean, they're almost like polar energies, right? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're being really invited to look at deep into what is the root that needs to change? What is the root issue that can provide us information on what needs to change? Maybe is more like it, but I love that you picked the Capricorn card because this energy is so strong. When I'm looking here at the chart for the new moon, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 placements in Capricorn.
Wow.
So there's like Mars and Venus, a couple of the asteroids, Mercury, Pluto, like all of that energy. I'm not going to go through each one, but it's like, it's a lot of Capricorn energy right now. And we've been in a Capricorn sort of, we've been doing and Capricorn is work. You know, it is work. It's funny. It's like today I'm working on Sunday, you know, like it's like Capricorn is work. It's just, and so we're doing the work. And in that card to me is like, you've got to do the work. And that's when you mention support, it kind of feels like this is a time where we can ask for help. We can ask for support. It could be that we talk to our advisors, whether that's your team that you have of people or of angels or whatever it is. We are being definitely encouraged to have some support around us to really get to the root, because when we get to the root of whatever the issues are, it's really going deep and dark, and sometimes that can be really hard. And that's why I think that card is like almost feels like it's like a dark card. But it's just because we go to such dark places and really pull up that shadow work.
Yeah. Well, I feel like many of the devil card representations in all of these tarot, it's almost a bit farcical, because sometimes when you are doing that deep dive, you're going within, it can be a bit surreal. It can be a bit unbelievable, because you're like, did I really say that? Or did I really do that? Or is that really how I'm feeling? Like, is that even possible? So, you know, there's a lot of work in that, and it can be farcical in a really creepy, surreal way. So that's interesting. I know that we've been in a cycle of heavy, I know for me personally, I've definitely been in a cycle of heavy work, like heavy inner work and releasing and diving in and getting sort of to the nitty gritty of things. And I could really use a break. So this coming up right now, makes me go, oh God, what's next? Not gonna lie. But I think that's really interesting. And I think that takes us to about the 9th-ish of February. So bear with me on my timings. It's math. In my brain, it's numbers, so it's math. And so I suck at it. But I'm definitely feeling like I think it's going to go to the 9th, and then the next phase, which is the Waxing Gibbous 2, or the Waxing Crescent. You were mentioning Waxing Crescent and Waning Crescent. 2 is that there is, I feel like it's going to be the 10th through, we're looking at the 10th through the 12th. So we're going to say that. Okay. So our next card, oh, and I'm pulling 2 at once here. The next card is 9 of Wands. Oh, so I love 9 of Wands. Let's talk about 9 of Wands. First of all, Wands represents our passion, our fire, our soul flame. It's the fuel that we use to go through our lives, to live our purpose. And when we're talking about 9 of Wands, 9s is endings, conclusions, resolutions to things, coming to the end of a chapter. Sometimes it's happy resolve. Sometimes it's a situation where, you know what, we've gotten as far as we can go and it's not working out. We got to end it now. And I'm feeling like this particular phase or this energy in this new moon is really kind of representing, especially after the devil, it's representing either a further loss of control, feeling out of control in your dynamic, or it's representing that I have done the work on whatever's kind of popping up in those days. And now I'm feeling more in control of my my addictions, my cycles, my patterns, and perhaps I even have a bit of a plan that I'm enacting. Wands energy is very much, I want to say, inspired action. It's movement forward, and it's hot. You got to pay attention to your energy levels. What am I giving out? What am I taking in? Am I burning the candle at both ends? Is there too much going on? Am I at the end of my road? So I feel like a lot of what this is about and what this is reflecting, and you want to keep this in mind, is, are you in control of your own energy? Where are your energy levels at? Because and we haven't pulled the next card, but I want to say to you, I'm feeling really strongly that the next card is going to really indicate where we're going, the direction we're going. And I feel like it's going to be off like a shot. So you want to be paying attention here to, where are my energy levels? What am I investing my energy in? Where am I putting my time into? And is it worthwhile? Is it of value to me at this point? Is it going to get me where I want to go?
Yeah. I mean, this card, the strength card, it's like referring to all these different areas, our mental strength, emotional, physical, spiritual, and really addressing all of it on every level. It's the sun and the moon in Sag. It's a Sagittarius card. It's
yes.
fire, right? It's directly related to our passion and how we use our energy, and where our strength lies, and really harnessing our strength. I love that it's the sun and the moon, which is also, when the sun and the moon together, that is the new moon when they're together.
Yeah.
And in Sagittarius has been a really important energy this past couple of years, because the south node of the lunar nodes, which really represent, the south node represents what we're leaving behind. And Sagittarius is like our beliefs. It's like what we really hold as our beliefs. And the shadow of that is when we're dogmatic, when we think like it's this way, and then we don't want to hear what anyone else. We're not that open to other people's ideas. And because if you know any Sagittarians, and I don't mean to insult anyone, but they can be very kind of righteous. And they actually earn it usually, because there's been a lot of studying and a lot of like real searching for the truth. But once, as I said, there's a shadow in every sign. So the shadow is about like becoming a little stuck on our beliefs and not really open. So we have been really encouraged the past couple of years, and you see this in society, to listen and be open to other people's ideas and things like that. So I want to think like, as far as mental, emotions, spiritual, physical health, really being open to others, being open to any messages we're getting that really allows us to step into our strength, and really, really sort of, I want to say, fortifying our energy. Just really, and making it more stable based on like deciding like what is it that's working and what is not, and holding that which we can.
And I love this depiction based on what you just said, because she's got all of these wands that she has gathered. She's worked hard to gather. You were talking about, research and knowing, that it's often hard won what they believe, because they've done the work to say, oh, I know this or I know that. And she's solid. She's solid in what she's doing. She's confident in what she's offering. So there is the potential for confidence. I also want to say, in commenting on the, being encouraged to listen, being encouraged to be open to other people's beliefs, it takes a lot of strength to hold your own when you are connecting with someone that you don't vibe with, but it doesn't necessarily make them wrong. It doesn't make you wrong either. It means it takes strength to be open. So be courageous enough to be open. You don't have to change anybody else's mind. You just need to listen and allow that person to say whatever they need to say, and you can hold your own, and they can hold their own in the space as well. She's holding her own. Regardless of what else is going on around her, she's holding her own. So I feel like that's a really important message for us. I love that. All right. So the next card up is our full moon. The full moon,
yes,
people go crazy.
The full moon in Leo.
Oh, well, and we have a fire card. We have one of my faves, Queen of Wands.
Wow.
So, I mean,
I knew I needed to just say that before you picked the card. I was like, Leo is fire. It's a fiery sign.
yes, well, this fits. And so something that I learned from Nikki Sue about this particular card, she calls it the witchy card. This is the card of the psychic and really owning your gifts, owning your intuition. It doesn't matter what anybody else says, whether they doubt you or not. You are fully in. You're all in because you believe in yourself. I want to say this card generates and exudes confidence. And I feel like this is the second time I've been bringing up this kind of word confidence that's coming up. So full moon energy, it is going to be a little fiery. There are going to be a lot of, I want to say, a lot of potential for misunderstanding, miscommunication, heated discussions, heated arguments. And at the same time, I want to say the fire is cleansing. It burns through the bullshit and gets right to the heart of the matter, so that, and that's bullshit on either sides, whether you're the one who's saying it or you're the one who's receiving it, it's clearing it away. Queen energy also is structure, order, delegation. And I want to say this full moon, what I'm receiving is it's all about making sure that you're organized, that not only your thoughts are organized, but that your emotions around them are organized. Full moon energy, and I don't know if this is true of full moon all the time, but I want to say to you, I feel there's a lot of manifestation property this full moon that's coming up. So I believe this is like the 10th to the 13th or 11th to the 13th, something like that. And what I'm feeling here with the full moon energy is you want to take advantage of this energy that's swirling around. Not to say you want to be heated and you want to get into arguments with everybody. It's more like when you're recognizing that this energy is around, you want to harness it. Be the witchy, use the wand to harness the lightning, to harness the fire, and harness it and focus it and direct it to something that you want to see change, or something that you want to have come into the mix. You want to clear away what isn't working so that you can clear the path and create something new. And I feel like it's all about the manifestation this particular month. Let's see what you got to say around that.
Well, you did mention that the Nine of Wands was going to be a lead-in for the full moon card.
Oh yeah, I did. Well, here we are.
I mean, because the 9 is really representing endings, right? It's kind of when we've come all the way, and then once we get to a 10, it's like that's a 1 again in numerology.
Yeah.
So the 9 always represents like what we're wrapping up,
yeah,
and what we need to really, really lay down to move forward. So that totally makes sense. There's a certain like mastery of self-knowledge with this card, not and spiritual, but it I think it bridges other realms as well. When you say you talked about really being able to sort of lasso your emotions. You didn't use that terminology, but I am. And you mentioned that was what was coming on this full moon, and makes total sense, because Leo is about our emotions. If you think about the Strength card, which is Leo card, it is about like, how do I tame my emotions? How do I respond to things without reacting? And so this full moon really gives that flavor. The full moon is always a time to reflect, recalibrate,
right.
And then, and so it gives us like, where the new moon is like, we are actually planting the seed, something new.
Yeah.
The full moon is the time where we reflect on what's been happening, which is always why the full moon feels a little heavier. Because anytime we're reflecting and we're having to go deep within, it's kind of like it pulls up so much stuff. So with Leo, it is a lot about our emotions. It's a lot about the heart.
Yeah, wearing your heart on your sleeve. Yeah,
which is the whole idea of like it's the sign of the heart. It definitely works into relationship stuff as well. So on so many levels, we're being asked to take a really big look again at all that. Like, how are we now? We have all the stuff I mentioned earlier, and now what are our emotions saying? So this full moon is going to be revealing about our emotions
Mm,
and how that is for us internally. Self, this card like mastery of self knowledge, but then the sun is in Aquarius on the opposite of the moon in Leo. They're polar signs.
mm,
So then it's like, how am I functioning in the outer world, which is more Aquarian? And
right.
so it's really like, I want to say it's really bringing together this first half of this reading, because it's really like coming to a crux point of like, how does this make me feel right now, and how am I operating then from there, and how
Right.
is it being reflected out into my community with
Right.
Aquarius?
And I'm hearing the message that we all really need to make the self-care piece a priority during this time, because this is not going to be an easy time. It's not necessarily going to be a hard time, dun, 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 something horrible's happening. It doesn't feel like that. But as you said, Nikki, it's heavy, feels heavy. And I think that's something that we need to consider in the full moon is really setting aside some time to not reflect, to self-care, to self-love, to, I want to say, self-comfort, add comfort, find ways to comfort yourself during that time.
It's kind of bringing me in to this thought about our internal flame too, like really what lights our flame, what keeps us warm inside,
The soul
with the
flame.
wands and the Queen of Wands being, more intuitive
Yeah.
and internal.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm so on this year, I don't know if anyone else can validate this or not, but I have just been getting all over the place. This is a soul-based year for the collective. We are diving deep into the soul and the issues of the soul. Like, what is humanity's soul at this point? We are in the process of opening up into that soul path and soul purpose of humanity. We're at the beginning stages of it. And so it's really interesting to me that wands keeps coming up all over the place in my own spreads. In this spread, it's coming up. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the rest of the year, but we are collectively dealing with the soul. So when you talk about that soul flame and what does this do for me? That makes so much sense.
I think last month, I think five out of there are 8 cards total of the spread, everybody. And I think 5 out of my 8 were wands. Like, it's
Oh,
just
that's
like,
right. Yeah, I remember that.
and
That was crazy.
it's
And
the
didn't we
wands,
have two
very
of
deep
wands
work.
we had two of wands together at the same point.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is really important, actually.
Yeah, that was
That was
pretty intense. So now we're moving into the waning gibbous one. So this is after the full moon, and I should have said this before, and Niki was describing it beautifully, but when we are from new moon to full moon, it's a more active cycle. Yes, there's reflection, but there is more action-based stuff. When we're in the waning phase, we are stepping back. These are the times when we maybe aren't as productive, or we aren't as, push, 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 go, go, go. So there's a waning energy where we need to kind of go within, and then back in the cycle, it's okay, I'm coming out and I'm expressing myself at the new moon or the full moon, and then I'm waning again. So we are in this, okay, we're cresting the full moon and we're going into the next phase, and we've got the beautiful Temperance card. Look at this card. Love this card.
wow. Can you put that a little closer?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's just gorgeous. I love the colors and all the contrast. So, okay, Temperance, harmony, balance, and alignment. Temperance is also the alchemist, turning lead into gold. And I feel like this particular period of time, so I believe if I'm doing the math right, this is kind of like the 15th through the 17th, 18th, something like that. What we need to be considering, especially coming out of that Leo type energy and the Queen of Wands doing her thing, what we need to come into now is recognizing how are we, and you mentioned this in another card too, how are we bringing all of this information, this knowledge that we have gathered, the understanding and awareness of how we're feeling, how do we bring that into balance? How do we take some of the ick and turn it into fertilizer for the new seeds that are being planted? And I mentioned to you that we are now on a clear path and a clear direction. And when you get the alchemy card, it basically means, okay, I've got a plan and I've got my resources, but maybe I have 4 different elements, and each of the elements on their own, they're great, but it's not serving my purpose. But what if I combine the 2 elements together? It creates something different and it serves my purpose. So I really feel like what you're going to be exploring this period of time during this cycle is really recognizing, okay, I've learned my lesson, or I've gathered the information around how I'm feeling, and maybe even why I'm feeling it. And now how can I utilize that as I'm moving forward on my path? How can I enrich my choices and enrich my, I want to say, my hopes and dreams with the action behind it, with making, I want to say, physical choices, physical decisions, physical actions, to take those steps forward. So I want to say to you, this is very much an action card, very much about, I'm in charge of me. I'm in charge of my life. I'm in charge of my destiny. And I need to be resourceful about what's around me. I need to kind of, okay, I haven't gone grocery shopping and I need to eat. So I'm going to go into the pantry and I'm going to go into the fridge and see what's there. I'm not going to go to the recipe book first. I'm just going to go and see what ingredients I have. And from there, I'm going to get creative on trying to come up with something that's going to be nourishing. This is kind of the energy of what we're going to be stepping into. So step into creativity, but understanding that you want to use your own inner fire. You want to use your magic to be able to take what is in front of you and make it work for you. Regardless of whether you're happy about it or not, there's a way, there's a creative way to take that lead and turn it into gold, but it's up to you. No one else is going to do it for you. It's up to you.
I love seeing her after the Queen of Wands.
Yes.
Is like is an interesting kind of feeling, because if Queen of Wands is like mastery of self knowledge and spiritual, and your spiritual self, then Temperance brings integration. So it's like it's where we recognize the polarities in just ourself, and that's just part of life, that we have of course, that's just apparent, the paradoxes that are just within us, but we learn to balance it out, the polar energies, which I've talked about a lot during this talk. And it's really like just about kind of just seeing where is the balance, what is the alchemy here, what do I need to add more of, and it's almost this refinement of self knowledge, to refine it and really like just get it like the right recipe, like you said. So I just love that. And it's, and it's about like, there are things that we do need to leave behind. And I mentioned that earlier, it's the Sagittarius card. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like, again, there's some stuff that the truth about the self that we've had to leave behind, things that were our beliefs, but recognizing like that was what I felt like 10 years ago. I don't need I can change it now. Yeah. I can add something else into the mix. It's often pouring, you depicted in the card, pouring these liquids together. And it's like being willing to let go, even if sometimes we really hold on to things in the past that seem to really fit us. We have to recognize that we are evolving into different sort of different people, in a way, not different people, but different versions of ourselves,
different versions.
So exactly. and just being and being easy about it, being there's a moderation piece to Temperance. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I'm thinking like being almost moderate in our thoughts, in how we think about ourselves, and because then we can get to those places that are very self-negative and really difficult. And in this new moon, in Aquarius energy can overthink. That can be a lot of times when we have a lot of Aquarius energy, there's a tendency to like get insomnia or just be stuck in the head. And so Temperance is like asking us to still, let's be in the heart. And what I love about this, the date that you have, and I would have to look it up, but again, this is around the time where Mars and Venus come together. It's still in Capricorn, but just the two of them together feel feels like Temperance to me, because
Yeah.
there's just this alchemy of the polar energies of Mars and Venus. So
I
it
love,
really works well with the astrology. And
I
it
love,
works well in this position, in this pull, because in this new moon pull, because it's like we've come to this point where something is really coming to a crux with the queen,
yeah, something
of
has to
really
give.
seeing the truth about like this deep part of ourselves and our internal fire. And then Temperance is like asking us to integrate it now,
Yeah, I love that.
synthesize.
I love that. Um, Something that you were saying was making me laugh, because I'm doing making a lot of changes to my website, and sort of evolving in my offerings and that kind of thing. And I was with another friend of mine the other night, and we were looking at some of the older videos that have been on my website. And I don't go on my website for anything. I have a team that kind of handles all that. I just make the videos and I give them to them, and they handle all the technical stuff. I haven't been looking at it. And those videos have been up for 5 years. And now I'm like redoing the videos and whatnot. And I'm watching myself and I'm cringing, because I'm like, oh my God, who is that person? Like, oh my God, who is that person? So I'm laughing, because yes, we are ever evolving. And what a beautiful thing that we are always constantly evolving. I always say that the only constant in life is change. Death and taxes, death and taxes. Well, no, change. Change is the only constant. So I think
You're
that's interesting that you were saying that.
well, this is right after that Leo full moon. And
Yeah.
that is so true. And I'm like, this is why I don't ever do these video things, because I'm like, I cannot even watch myself, because I just get embarrassed watching myself. Like, no one's in the room, but I'm embarrassed watching myself. No matter what, this is like tomorrow I'll be embarrassed. And it's like this energy is asking us to like tame those emotions, back to the Leo full moon of like, we could be so hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Leo is about the ego. So that comes up.
Oh yeah.
And I want to say the Temperance after the full moon is like, you don't need to be so hard on yourself. Like, it's so hard for you to watch those videos. But that was 5 years ago. And
Yeah.
that we are all our worst critic.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so it's like really
absolutely.
putting that in perspective on with that Leo full moon, I think is a poignant teaching here. And then having the moderation piece there, even in Temperance, just really asks us to just be lighter on ourselves.
It's like adding a little bit of water to the fire, not to put the fire out, but to tame the fire so the fire doesn't burn us out.
Yes. Love
And the
it.
fire adds a little bit of pizzazz to the water, so that the water can, feel a little heat every once in a
Yeah.
while, and kind of boil and sizzle and move a little bit, rather than just always being in I want to say, a gentle flow. It's like, okay, I'm going to shift it up a little bit. So we need some of that opposition. We need some of that in order to remind us of what moderation can feel like.
You,
Because sometimes
there's always, I'm
peace.
sorry.
That's all right. I was just saying, sometimes moderation brings peace.
It does, because there's soul healing through the polarity. Like in the astrology, through the opposite sign, there's always soul healing. So I mentioned earlier through Capricorn, the what's happening in Cancer is it's the soul healing from the polar sign, and the polar energy of Temperance would do the same. It would create the same magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. We are at the third quarter moon, folks. Oh,
Woohoo!
wow. You're going to laugh, because it's kitty corner. We got 9 of Swords, folks.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Niki has a beautiful way of explaining this card. I'm going to give you what I'm getting intuitively, and then I'm going to let her talk about what the 9 of Swords actually means. So looking at this card, she's sort of sitting on the bed and she's got a headache. She might be hungover. She might have just had a disagreement with her partner. And she's just kind of going, what just happened? I talk about this a lot, when you get into a conversation and everything's going awesome, and all of a sudden you land in the conversation, you land in a spot where you're like, what just happened? We just took a big detour. How did we get here? And oh boy, being here right now means that we've got to address something pretty big or pretty uncomfortable. So I'm feeling like for us here in the third quarter moon, which puts us at, I think, the 17th to the 19th-ish energy, 20th, something like that. Again, 9s, endings, but also I'm feeling for us, it's kind of like getting out of the head, getting out of the monkey mind, shutting all of that down. I want to say it's, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Is the energy that I'm tapping into that we're going to need to deal with. There's also issues around, I want to say, confrontation. And it's not like the issue is confrontation. I feel like the issue is around how the confrontation sort of happens. You know, you can be confronted or be confronting in a thoughtful way. You can choose to express yourself with decorum and dignity and keep the integrity and dignity of the other person in the mix, or you can hit below the belt. And I feel like this is something you really want to be addressing, because you don't want to be this girl who's got the headache at the end of it that says, oh my God, that just did not go the way I wanted it to. Also, when we're talking about swords, it's the realm of the mind, the mental energy. And like I said, monkey mind. Get out of your head, peeps. Go into the heart space. I feel like that's the message. Even though we're talking a lot about soul fire and soul flame, what I'm hearing here is you need to go into the heart space rather than the head space. When you are having any kind of conflict or interaction, or you're having to confront somebody about your boundaries or about how you're feeling or about something that was said or the way something was handled, you want to approach it from your heart space. And that means connecting your heart to the other person's heart before you open your mouth and say anything. It's not that you don't have the right to say anything. You have the right to say whatever you want, but it is important that you pay attention to not being reactive. You want to be more responsive in this energy. So I'm going to shut up now, and Niki's got a great way of discussing this card.
Well, there's so much going on because based on also what you said. I mean, the card is about mental cruelty, being haunted, negative thinking, like all those negative thoughts. I mean, it's like often depicted yours as the headache, or it's the person in waking up from a nightmare. So it's like, and it reminds me of like, you know, when something's keeping you awake, that really dives into a deep issue. Oftentimes, like when you have a pain in your body, like you have a shoulder thing, but it's keeping you awake at night. Now it's time to really address it, because as soon as it's keeping you awake, you know your mouth, you need to repair something. And this is also of the mind as well. And it's the Mars in Gemini card. And that is like being like driven by your thoughts. So it's like that, yeah. It's really, but it can be like an overactive Mars mind, Gemini. So I have that natal placement. I know exactly what
you're
that feels
describing
like.
Me like this is always my issue. I'm
well,
like, stop thinking, like just stop. If I could pull the thoughts out, I would.
And you are haunted by them in that card. It's
yes,
like
haunted.
You are haunted by all that stuff, and it's mental cruelty. So it's often negative. And it's just so interesting what you just said, because this whole month, and we're dealing with like the new moon. So we're dealing with the lunations of the month that are very important. So the new moon in Aquarius, as soon as the sun went into Aquarius on the 20th, 21st, you start feeling the polar energy. And I'm glad that I keep bringing this up so that it really gets people thinking, but like the polar energy is Leo. So the whole month has a Leo tone to it. Wow. Culminates in that full moon in Leo. But every single month, the full moon will be in the polar side of what the sun's in. So it is about the heart, Leo, and the head, Aquarius. And so you were saying like going into the heart, really going into the heart to get out of the head. And I kind of think this whole month is this huge journey of like, it's where this manifests. I think the Nine of Swords makes total sense, even with the wands, because it's like, where is this manifesting? Like, and it's just like, and how can I go back into the heart, not being in my head so much? But how can I use my head when dealing with my heart?
Yes, I
love
love
it is this balance.
I love that. There's an analogy that I use all the time. So anyone who is familiar with my work, you've probably heard this a million times, but I talk about it. I'm a Star Trek fan, and I talk about it like TNG, where Captain Picard is the heart And Riker is the head, the first officer. He's the head, he's the mind. And sometimes the mind or the head thinks that it wants to be the boss, thinks that it wants to control things. But really, it's the heart that dictates to the head. The head is a tool. Our mind is a tool. We forget that because we have been taught for years and years and years and years that it's all about the head. The mind is first, logic and ration and reason. All of this other intuition is just mumbo jumbo, right? That's not the case. We are in that space of it's got to be the heart first. The heart gives the order and the head is to enact that order. So when you do find yourself in that monkey mind space or in that haunted or tortured inner monologue and you can't shut it off, you want to go into that heart space, because the heart space is going to, kind of like Temperance, the heart is the water, right? So the heart is going to tame the flame or tame the air that's going on all, sort of all around it. It's going to bring it a little bit into balance and through that process, bring you into a little bit of peace. Regardless of what's going on, it's going to bring you into your core space where you can receive some peace.
It's funny because it's making me think into like that often it is the heart that causes the head to kind of also have so much battle. So if you think of the Three of Swords, it's like three swords puncturing a heart. And there is such a huge connection between the swords and the cups, or the heart and the head.
Yeah.
There's a huge connection, and it does go both ways. It could be matters of the heart that is causing you to stay awake and be haunted at night. Right. But it's like, what does the heart truly need? Right. So the medicine in that is really like, really coming into a space. It brings us right back, and I know we have one more card before it, but to that Justice card where it's like, what's the truth here? What's the balance here? Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I always love how this happens with all of our new moon spreads. Is it always manages to come back around somehow. Like even when we don't plan it, it's there and it comes back around. Yeah, that's awesome. So the last card in the not in the spread, but in the cycle, the moon cycle, is the Waning Gibbous 2, or the Waning Crescent 2. And this is the one that's calling out. So let's see what we got. And we have one more card after this. That's always my favorite card. And we'll talk about that in a second. Love it. The Emperor.
Ooh.
So the Emperor, I love the Emperor because the Emperor is birthright. The Emperor is, I don't need anyone's permission to do what I know is best for me, and ultimately what is best for, that's going to sort of serve my purposes. And if I recall, I believe this is the Aries card in astrology. So the information that I'm sort of picking up into the final days of our this particular new moon cycle, what you want to really be considering is all the stuff that we've been kind of discussing here and moving through. A lot of it is about balance. A lot of it is about becoming aware of, how we're feeling about things, heart on the sleeve, a lot of fire involved in this. It's soul flame energy, moving into that space and bringing that balance. It's now saying, okay, I've got the balance, or I've at least got a plan for what the balance is going to look like. And when I choose it, I may piss some people off because I'm choosing it. Because if I'm choosing me and I'm putting myself first, sometimes that means having to say no to other people. And that can be hard, especially for my empaths out there. We find it difficult to establish those kind of boundaries. We find it difficult to say no to somebody, because when you say no to somebody, you're automatically going to disappoint them. There could be some kind of fallout. We want to avoid all of that. I'm here to tell you, these days when this comes up, it's so important that you not do that. The focus needs to be on what is going to be best for me, because let's face it, if you're not in balance, how can you help others? If you're not in balance, how are you going to be able to manifest what wants to come through you into the world from a service-oriented perspective, or just from I want to be in service to myself for a minute. I don't want to have to worry about everybody else and their issues. I'm taking a break. I'm taking a vacation from, your crises and your dramas, and I am going to focus on me. It's not about going within. This is very bold. This is very out there and in your face. So I want to say, for those of you empaths who find it difficult to kind of speak your truth, or maybe be a little firm or a little strong in what you're saying, no means no, like I said no, and it's a complete sentence. You might find that some of that fire energy of the wands comes through and you just say it and you're like, oh, come from, but don't take it back. Don't apologize. Say it like you mean it. I'm drawn really quickly, and then I'll pass it on to Niki, but I'm drawn to a conversation I had with my mother a few years ago. It was around the time when I was leaving my husband, and I am very conflict avoidant, and I'm gonna both sides to sort of meet the middle, and I'm gonna be diplomatic and all the rest of it. And she said something to me, and I just, it was like, whew, the bullseye right in the eye. And she was like, oh, and normally I would be like backtracking, or, well, I meant it like this, or let's look at the other side of it. And I was like, oh shit, that's out there. But you know what? I'm not upset about it. It's my truth. And I really kind of don't want to take it back. And I don't know what the consequences of this are going to be, but at this point, it feels better out than in. I'm feeling a lot of that energy for us this period of time. Don't be surprised if you're not already clear on your boundaries, or you've been dancing around something and you haven't been clear. This is the time when it's going to come out. And I want to say to you, I'm going to encourage you not to take it back. Even if it's not delivered in a great way, don't take it back. You can always apologize for the delivery, but don't take back what you've said, because what you've said is truth. And Niki, we were talking about truth with the Justice card, right? So again, full circle. All right, I'm shutting up.
Yeah, with the Justice card, and then I'm still stuck on that Queen of Wands, which is just really knowing yourself that well. And then it feeds into this card. This is Aries, but Aries would be in the wand suit as a fire sign, ruled by Mars. So Mars is coming up again. I'm noticing Mars keeps coming up in many different ways. Mars in Gemini for that Nine of Swords card. And by the way, and I was going to look and on my software, just see when Mars goes into Gemini, because I believe the retrograde happens in Gemini this year for Mars. Mars retrograde, it's like every 18 months. We had a Mars retrograding in Aries, and it was a 6-month transit. Ooh. That Mars was in Aries because it retrograded. Usually Mars can go through a sign in 3 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks. So it's like, when it retrogrades, it stays there just like Venus just did. These are our personal planets. They affect us in everyday life. The outer planets that are not the personal planets are the ones that are further away. They're bigger picture reflections, like really, but the everyday life stuff are these planets, Mars, Venus, Mercury, which we have just been in a retrograde. We're still in Mercury, and now Mars is going to enter. But this is going to happen after May sometime. I don't know the exact date right now.
Okay.
And so this Mars energy is about, or Aries, again, Mars rules Aries, is really about stepping into ourselves and being super confident with whatever we have decided that we are doing, the space that we take up, and doing it with a level of confidence and a knowledge that not only is this good for myself, even though it's about me. Aries is about me. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's like, I'm here.
Yep, the baby.
It's me.
It's all about me.
It's all about the self. However, that evolved in the medicine of the Emperor card is, because the space I take up actually feeds the collective, actually is feeding the rest and integrated into the rest. So the fact that is at the end of the spread is gorgeous. It's like now that I've gone on this journey, and I have, like, from the beginning of the truth, really getting into self-knowledge, going through the process of like digging deep into the root of things, into seeing the truth and going into the darkest of places, and knowing what is haunting us, we can come to a place of like real mastery of the self and owning our space on this earth at this time.
I love that you said about the owning the space or taking up space. We need to take up space. For those of you who are afraid of your own shadow, those of you who are nervous about your own voice and speaking your truth, for those of you that would rather blend into the wall than create a conflict, this is the time to say, I deserve to be here. I deserve to breathe the air that I breathe, and I deserve to take up the space that I am taking here. Not only do I deserve to take it up, but I deserve it because it's not just that I'm taking it up for me, although that's okay, but I'm also taking it up for me because when it processes through me and comes out of me, it's also going to be transformative. Transformative. And quite honestly, truth is transformative. And that's the energy that we are in. And that's the energy we're in this month. That's really going to be interesting how this sort of plays out. I feel this is the year of truths revealed and things like that as well. So, I mean, that part doesn't surprise me. What I'm kind of excited about is how that's going to be reflected in our sort of individual lives, you know, the microcosm of what we're going through over the macrocosm of it.
And that's sort of the personal planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars. That's what their energy brings. It is the microcosm.
Yeah.
And the macro stuff, you know, is out there too. But we're just looking at that specifically, and they're really related to the cards in this half of in the whole thing. But
yeah, no, I love it. So our final card in our new moon musings spread is my favorite card. And of course, you're going to be shocked by this, but it's my favorite card because it's called the Soul card. And the Soul card, we can interpret this in a number of different ways. I think the way that Niki, Sue, and I have always sort of internalized it is from a personal perspective. What does my soul need to learn, or what journey is my soul path taking with all of this energy, and how can my soul, I want to say, become all that it can be using the energy of what's in this space in this new moon cycle. Do you have anything to add there on the Soul card? I know you might have a different way of viewing it.
you said that beautifully. It's just the soul journey of whatever's being brought to you and presented to you at this time. And I often, there's been months where I picked the same soul card months in a row, or I just decided to leave it because I knew I was still in that energy. And I do want to say that about each card, when you're going through the month, bleeds into the next card sometimes. Sometimes you're still in the Chariot when you get to the next card, or whatever it is. It's like we have these like 3 days we're blocking off, but like there is sort of and there is the moon, like it's when it changes, sometimes it's a little slower and then faster, and then it, around the full and new moon it gets slower. So again, like with the middle card as well, as it's like our guide, it's almost our anchor card for the month, I would say. You could call it that too. And again, it can, like I said, sometimes I ride that card for a couple months. I was like riding the world card for like 3 months. I think I picked it twice, and then the third month I said, I'm just keeping it.
Because clearly I'm in it. For me, last month and this month, or last moon cycle and this moon cycle, it's been 4 of Cups. And I've been in 4 of Cups, and I'm still pulling it. So I think I'm in that energy as well. We'll see what I pull when we do our own. But no, that's a great way to acknowledge it. I also want to say the anchor card, for those of you who don't know anchor card, Lindsay Mack, it's another course that Niki and I have taken together, and she's an amazing tarot reader, very amazing viewpoints and perspectives on the tarot. She does tarot for the wild soul. So she's created this concept of anchor card. And if you think about an anchor, it's something that's going to support you while you're going through. So this is also, you can think about this card as support. The energy of this card is going to offer support as you're moving through all of these energies. Oh, I love it. So our support is the Hierophant. The hero is the inner guide. This is your inner wisdom and knowing. It's also understanding what you're believing today, what limiting beliefs you need to release in order to be able to fully embrace your truth. And so I think it's really interesting that we've pulled another card that does, it's not a card of truth, it's a card about exploring what truth is for you. Tapping into that deep inner knowing and that deep inner wisdom. This can be wisdom from, past and parallel lives that you're tapping into. This can be inner wisdom based on what you have learned in your own life, and the lessons that you've learned and what you have gathered. This can be wisdom that you want to know and you want to embrace, and you're not quite getting there yet, or you're not quite fully in it, but you're faking it till you make it. This is what this card is. Own it. It's also a 5. 5 energies change, transformations. Sometimes change and transformation can be a bit tumultuous. It can be disruptive. It can be uncomfortable as we are in a shift. I'm being called to mind here an earthquake. And I feel that I've talked about this a lot. 2020 was the earthquake for us. 2021 is the aftershocks, but it's still strong aftershocks. How do you build on earth that is still shaking? You have to wait until those aftershocks sort of peter out a little bit, or there's longer times in between. And I feel like you want to be recognizing that we are still kind of experiencing some aftershocks. So not as bad as it was in 2021, of course, but we are just barely into the energy of 2022. And so using this as an anchor card, it says, wait a second, regardless of whether the ground is shaking underneath me or not, I have my own beliefs that I can, my core beliefs that I can hold to, cling to for support, or that maybe I recognize that I can't hold and cling to these because they aren't representing who I am. They're no longer resonating with the energies. They're clashing with the energies of what's coming through. And so maybe I'm experiencing a bit of resistance. I need to take a look at that. Why am I resisting what is coming through? Focusing on what really is my truth in this moment right now. That's what you can, I want to say, anchor to.
So good. There's so many things I'm thinking. I mean, it's the Taurus card. And when you talk about earth and earthquakes, and that is all related to Taurian energy, as well as loyalty, what we're loyal to. And this card, which brings us to the card is often seen as, it looks like a priest. So it often has been, and this could be more patriarchal, but religious tones, because it does represent beliefs. And the beliefs that have been kind of imposed onto us based on our family or whatever's been handed down ancestrally. And the 5 is the number of change. Also, it's always a difficult number in all of the suits. Any 5 that comes up is a crux. It's a moment where it's like, oh shit, a crisis usually moment. So it has this energy, and thus making this card one of the more difficult cards to to kind of dive into the medicine of, in a way. And it's kind of bringing me back. I was wondering, I'm like, why do we keep picking these Sagittarius cards? There's nothing really in Sagittarius anymore. The South Node, as I mentioned before, what we're leaving behind was a transit that had been going on for the last 2 years. But like less than 2 weeks ago, the North Node, the nodes changed. They change once every 18 months. And it changed to Taurus and Scorpio. So the North Node is now in Taurus. So this card is reminding me, like, this just happened. We just went into this. We're in it for the next more than year and a half,
right?
Where we are building. Taurus is about building. It's like, what are we building based on our beliefs? Taurus does not want to change. It is the sign in the zodiac that wants to really keep everything the same, stability, very hard to make change. So it's really quite ironic that it's the 5 number forcing the change, which I love that. But it is remember earlier I said with Sagittarius energy, it's like we have these beliefs that we sometimes, when it gets dogmatic, we've held on to them and we are not willing to let them go. And in this card, it's like what are our true beliefs? It again is drawing me back into the heart, which Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's like it's drawing me back into like the heart and like what are what is my beliefs? Yes, I've learned this, I've learned this, I've learned this. There's a teaching and student element to the Hierophant card. And it's like I've learned all this, but now like what is my beliefs? What structures am I creating, Taurus, based on my beliefs? Based on what I've learned, I now know what direction I want to go because this is what I believe, and it's really coming into ourselves. Again, it just draws us right back to ourselves. And Taurus is a lot about even though it's a very like the material world is really important to Taurus. It's about senses. It's still a very introverted sign, and so it does draw us back internal in our own hearts with that ruling of Venus.
Beautiful.
And how and how we move forward and create and build. This Taurus is like working to really build a future.
And if we go back to my analogy of the earthquake, this makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay, we are ready to build again. There are some aftershocks that we have to deal with. So we need to keep that in mind. But what can we count on always? We can count on ourselves, and we can count on our own beliefs to keep us true, to keep us right.
It's like the lighthouse is that. Yes. And I mentioned that the North Node has just entered Taurus, and the North Node is the direction we're headed. It is the head of the dragon. The South Node is the tail of the dragon. We were leaving behind old beliefs. Now we're entering into a new realm where we are moving forward and building.
Yes. Beautiful. And from a collective perspective, that's exactly where we're at. We're looking at the destruction and we're saying, okay, let's pick through the rubble to see what can be salvaged. And now moving forward, what's the plan? What would we like to build? Because we need to leave this past behind. It has not worked. It has not worked for us. Now we need to move forward, or it's no longer working for us and we need to move forward. So as an anchor card, as a card of support for you this month, this is definitely a quality card to step into and really focus on what you believe, not what anyone else believes or anyone else tells you is the situation. It's what do I believe at my core? It's giving yourself permission, talking about the sort of the Emperor card. It's giving yourself permission to say, I'm not going to listen to anyone else. It's not about anyone else's opinions. It's about what do I feel, what resonates, what strums the chord in my soul and resonates up into the heart space. When I have that resonance, I know that that's what's right for me in that moment.
And it's really interesting too, because for the new moon, and even though that'll be by the time you hit that card, we are, a month away now.
Yeah.
But still the general tone of this reading starts with the new moon in Aquarius, and it's making a 90-degree angle. So a square, it's called, where there's some kind of not an opposition, but some kind of tension that needs to be resolved to Uranus and Taurus. That's what's happening in Taurus, which is a huge transit. And so you might expect the unexpected with Uranus. There could be some sudden change. And we want to be a little open to it because Taurus's nature is to kind of not want to move. Right. The slowest sign is like, but there is a lot of brilliance in the change, and Uranian nature is very genius brilliance. It can come in shocks sometimes. It can come in sudden, quick flashes, and so we want to just be aware of that as it's squaring this new moon. But and this energy Uranus has been very, very strong in last year, 2021. So there's been a lot of
collectively and personally, I can attest to that as well. The whole year was like, okay, I don't understand any of this. I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand what's going on. I was not prepared for that. I always say psychic with a bad sense of timing, psychic with a bad sense of direction. I'm like, that came out of nowhere. And I guess that's
exactly what it is. Yeah, it comes out of nowhere. But I'm just thinking again, like with the card of change, but really like we struggle against it sometimes.
Yeah.
And so that it's trusting your own beliefs and being a little aware that like anything can happen at any moment.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like that change, like those sudden shocks can be really rattling to the system.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
just being aware that this is what's happening above, this is the energy around us anyway.
Yeah. It's
And so
kind
it
of
just
like
really opens doors.
prepare for the unexpected, expect the
Yeah,
unexpected. And
exactly. That's the
the
energy.
unexpected doesn't necessarily have to be negative. Sometimes the
Oh, not
unexpected
at all.
is a beautiful, positive surprise, that you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
wow, that was awesome. And how perfect it's moving us in the right direction. And we weren't expecting that. And sometimes it can be things that are a bit uncomfortable, but all of it is there to help our soul growth. All of it is there to advance us ultimately to what it is that we're manifesting. So be clear with your thoughts. Be crystal clear with your thoughts, because we are manifesting, the energies around us are manifesting so much more quickly than they ever have been before. And that's important to keep in mind.
It's funny. It brings me to like the 5. I have a lot of 5 degree planets in my chart, a lot of aspects at 5. And I remember very early on, someone reading my chart and saying like, what does the number 5 mean to you? And I didn't know much about numerology. And the way she described 5 was like, this is the high priestess number. This is like, there's air, earth, fire, water, and spirit or ether, what that can mix with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a very potent energy. And it's like radical transformation happens through crisis. So I'm a yoga teacher, and that is the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a very important yogic book. And it's like that radical transformation happens through crisis. So the change can be hard and it could be a crisis, but the transformation that occurs is just beautiful. This is the chrysalis to the butterfly.
Yeah. Yeah. Or as I always like to say, it's the phoenix. Always the phoenix, that fire energy. So
yeah.
Wow. I'm so curious to see what February is going to bring us, what this new moon cycle is going to bring. These cards really, I want to say, present a lot of hopeful, integrative action, which I know I'm ready for that momentum, that forward momentum. And I love that we got the Temperance in there as well. A beautiful reminder of our own magic, our own alchemy, our own ability to co-create and to turn it, I always say, make the lemonade out of the lemons. Or sometimes you're just making lemonade because, like it doesn't have to be something, that's negative. It's more like, yeah, no, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing.
No, I like lemonade.
I love lemonade.
I'm going to order lemonade because I want the lemonade.
That's right. I want the lemonade, so I'll take it.
Because sometimes the sour is delicious.
Oh my God, yes. I'm one of those weird people that can eat a piece of lemon just like because it's delicious. I am that weird person. My dentist is so happy because I've worn off all of the enamel on my teeth, and so it costs me a lot of money when I go to the dentist because I love that sour and that sort of that pucker. It's devilishly delicious. So
it's so funny that you mentioned that. It's like, I've been talking about how much Capricorn energy we've been going through and that we're still in it. And, Capricorn is about the teeth. It's like,
oh, really?
And so I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking about the teeth. And they're like, so anything now that Venus was retrograding in Capricorn and now is forward, they're like, and Venus is about looks, like go to the dentist. And I was thinking, gosh, I have to go to the dentist. And I keep getting these, like, I'm on their wait list. So they're like, today there's an opening, and I keep putting it off. And I'm like, oh, so it's hilarious that you mentioned that. So everybody go to the dentist, get your hair done.
Yes.
This is forward. It's time.
All the
things.
All the forward things. Yes. All the beauty things, all the outward things. I love that. Thank you so much, Niki Sue, for this fabulous collaboration. And thank you to all who are watching it. This is just a joy for the two of us to do. This is what we do every month. We just do it about our own spread. So it's you know, sort of the next level to be able to offer it to everybody. And I hope you really enjoyed it. Really look forward to getting some comments and some feedback, hopefully positive feedback around what you liked here, because if it's something that you really enjoy, we would enjoy being able to do this for you on a regular basis. If you are interested in getting to know a little bit more about astrology, maybe it's time for you to get an astrological reading. Maybe you want to know a little bit about how the transits are affecting you month to month and bringing this on a personal level. I highly recommend booking a session with Niki Sue. Niki Sue, if you want to just tell everyone, I'm going to post something in our description below as well, in terms of how to connect with you. But if you want to just share that here, would love for people to know how to reach you.
Yes, I have a website. It's Niki Sue, Niki, just one K, SUE, yoga.com. And you'll find my information there on yoga, and astrology. And you can connect to me through the website. That's the easiest way. You can also find me Niki Sue 108 on Instagram, of course on Facebook. But anyway, so those are my main channels.
Love it. Awesome. And for those of you, maybe this is your first time connecting with me, you can always check me out on my website, theblackfeatherintuitive.com. I have a Facebook page, The Black Feather Intuitive, an Instagram page, The Black Feather Intuitive, of course, YouTube here, The Black Feather Intuitive, shocker of all shockers. Also would like to just mention that I am getting ready to introduce a new group event called Phoenix Rising, a monthly roadmap oracle reading to getting the desired outcomes. Actually, that's not what it's called, but that's what's coming through. It's something along those lines. Anyway, check it out. Phoenix Rising. We are beginning it. It's February 28th. It's a Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's an hour-long group event. We're doing a burning ceremony in there. We're doing a beautiful card spread to see what the energies are like for you in the month. There are 3 free readings that will be offered during that time. There's going to be a little bit of channeling, and there's community, lots of community. So we'd love to see you there if you're interested. And it's really inexpensive. It's only $25 to sign up for this. So we'd love to see you there. Thanks so much, guys. Take care. And we look forward to connecting with you again.